Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, first let me thank on behalf of Director IFC IOR, St. Joe's for allowing us the opportunity to speak about maritime safety and security at this August gathering. I am Commander Abeer Sharma. I look at operations at IFC IOR, and over the next few minutes, I will talk about how collaboration remains the cornerstone of effective maritime domain awareness, also maritime safety and security, even amidst the wave of emerging technologies which exist today. To establish a basis for my presentation, I'll begin by outlining the strategic importance of IOR and the complexities of the maritime domain that it faces today. I shall then briefly discuss the present technology and MDA tools and identify the gaps in terms of maritime surveillance and the tech, as the tech is rapidly covering grounds. I will briefly cover the swath of new tech so as to assess whether the new day tech can solve our problems in seeing beyond what is already visible. I will also present my views on whether or not tech alone can make us domain aware or more maritime secure, and finally how collaboration remains paramount towards ensuring maritime safety and security and enhancing domain awareness. While the maritime domain presents largely common complexities across the globe, the IOR has specific peculiarities which include it being home to about 35% of the world's population with a low average age of less than 30 years, making it a powerhouse in terms of human capital, and also adds to its vulnerability in terms of the maritime crimes that ply here. IOR is a key transit hub for world trade wherein substantial share of oil, container shipment, bulk cargo passes through this region. And you can imagine this, the IOR, that is the Indian Ocean region, as a bustling marketplace which witnessed 1,65,000 unique transit. When I say unique transits, these are vessels which have transited multiple times through the region and only counted as one. The huge amount of vessel traffic within the multinational nature of vessel, cargo, and crew makes surveillance, even with vessels which are AIS compliant. AIS is the automatic identification system, which is a mandate to be carried by ships above 300 gross tonnage. Ships which transmit on AIS, which is a legal foundation, are called white ships. Those ships which tend to evade detection by not transmitting on AIS are known as dark ships. Now, even with the AIS compliant vessels, monitoring all this traffic is a very complex task. Add to this the presence of dark ships, exponentially increases the challenges, and in such a scenario, it becomes easier for the subversive elements to mask illegitimate activities with the moment of world trade and commerce. Now, while technology can help us find a solution to these complexities, the cognitive understanding of the maritime domain is at present beyond the scope of tech alone and demands human intervention at each and every stage. Speaking of the tech today, MDA tools are broadly divided into two broad concepts or elements, which include surveillance sensors or surveillance technologies, as also the common operational picture tools or the MDA tools. Technological advancements in both these fields have enhanced the transparency and enabled better understanding of the domain. However, we can still not call ourselves maritime domain aware solely based on present and future tech. And in the next coming slides, I'll explain why. Surveillance near the coast is certainly more effective owing to the presence of multiple dependent and independent surveillance sensors which allow detection, identification, and classification. These include coastal radar chains whose input can be correlated with visual monitoring through coastal cameras and shore-based AIS. Furthermore, physical surveillance through naval and coast guard platforms also consolidate this maritime picture. However, as we go farther from the coast, this surveillance comes up with new gaps, and as the distance increases, gaps emerge. Plus, not all the littorals have adequate tech to implement effective coastal surveillance. It has been covered in adequate detail before that anywhere in the region, if there is a vulnerability that exists, that transcends into the national security of each and every country. SAT-based AIS sensors allow coverage of the entire span of the ocean. However, we need to keep in mind that AIS is a dependent surveillance measure which relies on correct transmission of data by vessels. The question of dark shipping is partially answered by the introduction of SAT-based electronic intelligence, that is radio frequency detection of ships transmitting on radars and other communication systems. Here again, the intercepts need to be correlated with some sort of identification for corroborating the identity and classification of the particular transmitting vessels. SAT-based imagery gets us closer to classification and identification. However, since the swath is too narrow, SAT-based imaging demands credible basis for assigning imagery tasks which are often very, very expensive. If we think that SAT-based AIS provides a comprehensive picture of the wide shipping, those are vessels which are intentionally transmitting, we will be mistaken here again, as such detections also suffer data drops in terms of satellite pickups and at times present an incomplete or unupdated picture. Now, next comes the fitment of dedicated transponders on board vessels, which allow greater monitoring. However, such monitoring is limited only to vessels which have those transponders fitted, and generally this data is available only with the respective flag states. Finally, the advanced MDA tools, which I had earlier hinted upon, help guarantee a common operation picture based on the sources identified earlier. These tools allow advanced analytics and anomaly detections based on vessel behavior and multiple other factors. Now, here, in essence, the technology of today is limited to what we see. As I've already covered, most of the sensors are dependent and not to what really exists or what should be seen. There still remain many gaps in surveillance which are exploited by subversive elements and makes room for illicit maritime activities. Let's see how the technological developments that promise these gaps to be covered and enable better surveillance. Now, in the modern day, satellite-based technologies have significantly enhanced dark ship detection through RF signal monitoring, that is ELINT, I've touched upon it before, vessel identification using SAR and EO, and advanced AI/ML enabled maritime domain awareness tools. However, key limitations remains, which are RF detection demands reliable correlation. AIS remains the most credible source for the same. SAR and EO, that is synthetic aperture radar and electro-optic imagery, offer limited spatial coverage. The swath of these satellites is very, very less, especially for classification, and AI capabilities are constrained by the quality and availability of underlying data that exists. Furthermore, the emerging surveillance technologies like high-altitude pseudo-satellites or HAPS, surveillance drones, observation buoys, and high-endurance autonomous underwater vehicles are enhancing persistent maritime awareness by fulfilling existing surveillance gaps. However, there are still challenges which remain in terms of the oceans being known to be vast, and despite advancements, many gaps will continue to persist. The volume data is enormous, demanding effective intelligence integration and sharing, and autonomous sensors often capture too much irrelevant information, providing a lot to see, yet not what should be seen. The present day MDA and COB tools allow seamless, there's a fashionable term called MPMSDF, which translates to multi-platform, multi-sensor data fusion, and augment the situational awareness by the use of AI to generate real-time alerts, enhancing clarity and response efficiency. However, human intervention is still not redundant, as regional expertise remains vital for interpreting complex scenarios, validating anomalies, and deducing actionable information. Now, having described all of this, it is very important that I touch upon two vital concepts to distinguish between domain awareness, which is a comprehensive and predictive understanding of the domain, from situation awareness, which is immediate and reactive. While situation awareness helps manage present risks, domain awareness is critical for anticipating and preventing threats, making it essential for lasting maritime security. Now, technology alone cannot achieve this depth, as technology can get us closer to MSA, that is maritime situation awareness. True maritime domain awareness requires collaboration, and the following slides highlight the slides that I'll be touching upon in future in the short span. We'll be touching upon the India's collaborative efforts in this particular direction, and specifically about IFC-IOR. India's approach to maritime domain awareness is rooted in collaboration. Among the various collaborative initiatives that are flashed on the slide, IFC-IOR in particular is India's flagship collaborative initiative and brings on board human touch to maritime domain awareness. If I am to sum up the entire functional backbone of IFC-IOR, I can count these under 5 elementary pillars. The first being the presence of ILOs. The ILOs, that is the International Liaison Officers, embody the concept of fusion of minds, bringing regional expertise and diverse perspectives together and help deepen situational understanding. The center presently has ILOs from 14 like-minded countries, with growing requests for positioning ILOs from other partner nations. Accordingly, the center is in the final stages of augmenting its infrastructure, and soon we'll be able to accommodate 40 ILOs, and the inauguration, which is scheduled on 7th of August next month. The center maintains extensive linkages with national and international organizations. International cooperation has been hinted before as to be a sole line of effort for maritime security. This connection serves as the sense organs for IFC-IOR, sourcing timely information related to maritime safety and security, and also as its limbs facilitating coordinated response through operational constructs. This integrated network strengthens both awareness and actions across Indian Ocean region. Building upon the inputs from our partners, the center maintains a validated database of maritime incidents. This is analyzed by a combined team of international and Indian staff for identifying trends and anomalies, and the resulting insights are shared through regular updates to help align perspectives, foster informed collaboration, and support a common understanding of the regional maritime environment. The center actively hosts and participates in international interactions, visits, and multinational exercises, creating valuable opportunities to share perspectives, brainstorm ideas, and exchange best practices. These engagements deepen the collective understanding of contemporary maritime challenges and, more importantly, strengthen collaboration by building trust and long-term partnerships. Now, beyond the core mandate, the center supports capability enhancement and knowledge sharing through workshops and seminars, often at the request of partner nations. The flagship workshop of the center, that is IFC-IOR, is the Maritime Information Sharing Workshop. The last version was held in September 2023. It witnessed a participation from 41 practitioners representing 26 countries. The next version of the exercise is scheduled in October or November this year. Now, speaking of IFC-IOR's contribution to enhancing maritime safety and security in the region, one example of the center's effort is to curtail maritime crime as it's analyzed through its analysis of contraband smuggling. These smuggling networks are often linked to financing of terrorism and transnational organized crime. By identifying and understanding such trends, the center enables timely action and better informed collaboration to counter this particular menace. In 2025, the IFC-IOR monitored 1,047 contraband smuggling incidents, with drug smuggling dominating all these cases, with 335 incidents. Seizures included over 75,000 kg of drugs seized, 34.5 million pills, and this all was valued at $8.97 billion US dollars. While opioid seizures remained low, indicating the initial success of the well-known opium ban in the Golden Crescent area, academic inputs suggested to us that the signs of its waning effectiveness, that opium cultivation is increasing again. Prompted by this particular advice, the center placed renewed focus on tracking opioid smuggling across the region. As per a UNODC report published on 6th November, opium cultivation in Golden Crescent region rose by 19%. Despite the ongoing ban on opium cultivation in particularly Afghanistan, while the levels remained below those in 22, the rebound from a 95% drop in 23 raised early concerns. At IFC-IOR, such inputs prompted the assessment that this increase would likely translate into a rise of opioid smuggling and seizures, necessitating enhanced regional monitoring. Building on the early warning signs flagged by the various inputs, the first half of 2025 saw these projections materialize on ground. IFC-IOR's half-yearly overview, that is H125, has been published this month, captured a notable surge in opioid smuggling with 5,447 kgs of opioids seized, an eightfold increase compared to all of 2024. In this case, fusing information from diverse sources enabled us to better understand emerging trends and enhance maritime awareness. As we've been established as a regional information hub in the IOR, we regularly receive real-time information. While we are fusing all the information, we also receive some real-time information which demand action. And in a recent joint operation between India and Sri Lanka Navy, IFC-IOR promptly related the first-hand information that we received at the center to Indian Navy, and which resulted in one of the biggest drug seizure in November last year. The maritime domain is undergoing a rapid transformation shaped by the ripple effects of ongoing conflicts, shifting threat paradigms, and strategic realignments. The geopolitical situation in the West Indian Ocean region amidst the ongoing conflict spiraled into the maritime domain with the hijacking of MV Galaxy Leader on 19th November 23. The volatile situation also triggered an upsurge in incidents of drone and missile attacks on motor vessels passing through the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. This has been hinted to before. The attacks on merchant traffic in West Asia led to a shift in security focus, leaving other areas vulnerable for piracy. And this resurgence of Somali piracy highlights the dynamic and evolving nature of maritime threats. Moreover, the rerouting of merchant traffics to avoid the troubled waters of West Asia exposed them to harsher weather conditions in the South African region. The subsequent shipwrecks of cargo and cargo losses of vessels like MV Ultra Galaxy, CMA CGM Benjamin Franklin, Belém, and ASC Antonio, which were all in news, demonstrate the fragility of global supply chains and potential for localized events to disrupt maritime trade on a global scale. At this stage, I would like to highlight one such example whose response was coordinated solely by the ILOs at IFC IOR. In the incident where a Sri Lankan fishing vessel, Lorenzo Putha, was hijacked off Somalia, the Seychelles Defense Forces, in collaboration with Indian Navy and Sri Lanka Navy, successfully intercepted and rescued the hijacked vessel. In this incident, the operational coordination all happened at IFC IOR between the Seychelles and the Sri Lankan ILO. It was the Indian Navy's RPA which localized the hijacked vessel, and follow-on action were materialized on ground by a Seychelles Coast Guard ship. In the famed anti-piracy operation of MV Ruin, which was touched upon in the previous presentation, coordination and collaboration played a decisive role in its success. When Malta flagged the bulk carrier was hijacked by Somali pirates on 14 December, IFC-IR promptly relayed the key information to the Indian Navy, enabling its swift deployment for the naval assets. However, simultaneously at the back end, Center also worked at back end maintaining constant coordination with the ship's CSO, that is the company security officer who handles all the operations of the ship, and the flag state. We could secure the operational consent to conduct the operational anti-piracy operation, and also source the blueprints of the particular ship so as to a special operation could be planned effectively, and which resulted in the effective release of the vessel. While the operational actions are visible manifestation of responses, I would like to highlight that it is a seamless interaction with the shipping companies and the industry in the background that plays a pivotal role towards the success of such operations. By facilitating sharing of information, a solid foundation is established for effective response strategies, ensuring that all stakeholders are well informed and prepared to act swiftly and decisively. Owing to the valuable contributions, DG Shipping of India, via DGS Circulars 27 of 23 and 8 of 24, have recommended all the vessels transiting through the sensitive areas to report their transits to IFC IOR through an online ship reporting form which we have developed and has been placed on our website. Since the declaration of this particular notice, IFC IOR has received more than 25,000 reports, and these are not only from Indian vessels. These include multinational vessels. Very recently, on 24th May, the center received first-hand information on call from MSC's Cyprus office regarding an emergency on board MSC Elsa 3. It was news very recently on 25th May it sank, which was approximately 30 nautical miles away from the state of Kerala. The vessel by then had listed by 26 degrees and was struggling to correct list because of the inclement weather which was existing in the region. The CSO informed that the crew were in a state of panic and requested for urgent assistance. The center promptly initiated operational response and informed the Indian Navy and the Indian Coast Guard. Accordingly, an MR aircraft was immediately diverted to the vessel and deployed 2 life rafts. Subsequently, Coast Guard and Indian Navy vessels also reached the scene of action and recovered the crew from the life rafts. The list of the vessel could not be corrected, and the immediacy of the particular operation came to light when the vessel sank the very next day on 25th of May. Talking of the very recent ongoing fire on board Van Hive 503, which is somewhere off west coast of India. Upon receipt of the distress on board Van Hive 503, the Indian Navy and Coast Guard promptly informed for initiating response actions, and IN and ICG deployed their assets, that is the aircraft, promptly. It was one of the Indian naval ships which reached on scene and could rescue 18 passengers, crew from the vessel in a tight spot. And in light of this particular incident, IFC-IF's contributions here, His Excellency Mr. Vikram Doraiswamy, High Commissioner of India to the United Kingdom, wrote to the IMO Secretary General, highlighting the critical role played by the center in bringing together the maritime efforts from Indian Coast Guard, Indian Navy, DG Shipping, MRCC, and the Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways in this incident where 18 lives were rescued. Another incident which occurred recently, the center was informed about assistance required by a Malaysian flagged yacht manned by a completely Chinese crew, which was transiting from Sri Lanka to Thailand. The center established contact with a shipping agent to source its positional updates and also its intentions. Now here what was interesting was the Chinese crew did not understand English at all. It was all IFC-IOR trying to coordinate the operation through an Indonesian shipping agent which was sitting in Indonesia. The vessel was heading to Thailand. One of the agents was sitting in Thailand. All the coordination was happening at IFC-IOR. The aircraft, Indian naval aircraft reached but could not communicate. We could, through the shipping agent, pass on the message, and finally the intentions of the vessel could be gleaned and its vessel position. And the vessel was provided fueling assistance by one of the Indian naval ships which reached on scene. Very recently, on 13 June, that is last month, the center received an input about a medical emergency on board a Singapore flagged tanker, that is Eagle Veracruz, involving a crew member passing blood with increasing severity. By the time the information was received on board, the crew member had fallen unconscious, and the director IFC-IOR received a call from the captain of the ship, making him understand the dire state of panic on board. The center immediately got in touch with the shipping company, directed the ship to close Kochi for a possibility of medevac. Through Indian Navy, we could reroute one of the Indian naval ships close to the vessel who had a medical officer on board and could pacify the medical emergency by providing them prompt medical advice. Indian naval helicopter was launched from INS Garuda at Kochi, which could go and pick up the casualty. The casualty was taken back, and it was not the center's role, did not end here. It was the center who was coordinating with the ship agent at Kochi, who could pick up the medical casualty, take him to the hospital, and finally we were informed about the correct medical attention that was provided to the crew member. And the relieved master and the CSO expressed their gratitude to the center and the Indian Navy through multiple channels. This is one of them. The preceding part of my presentation is not intended to advertise the contributions of ISCR, but rather to highlight the pivotal role of collaboration and information sharing which they play in enhancing maritime domain awareness. While technology provides a robust framework through sensors, surveillance platforms, and data analytics, the real strength lies in bringing together each and every stakeholder. When these elements operate in unison, they exponentially enhance our understanding of the maritime domain, enabling us not only to counter illicit maritime activities more effectively, but also to respond swiftly and decisively through coordinated action and trusted information. With that, I have completed. Apologies for overshooting the time, sir, but there was a lot of ground to cover in this regard.